Lyra adjusted her translator node as the comms panel crackled again, distorted by ion interference. The stars beyond the Zalari diplomatic vessel shimmered like broken glass, fractured by the anomalous energy storm they'd been studying. She sighed and swiped the data across her visor. Another empty ping, she muttered. Sector 9 is void. Again. Void sectors don't report interference, said a stern voice behind her. Commander Velen approached, his long grey crest trembling with restrained unease. His eyes flicked to the static on her screen. Lyra frowned. I recalibrated the sensor net. That signature's artificial. It's faint. But there's a pulse. Velen didn't respond. He just stared. What? She asked. He pointed with a trembling digit. That frequency. That shape. Pull up the full readout. She obeyed. The hologram coalesced, an outline of a vessel, jagged and asymmetrical, its form inconsistent with any known galactic architecture. Its hull geometry was erratic, patched with crude extensions, yet it drifted forward with undeniable purpose. That ship, Velen whispered, voice hollow. Shut it down. Delete the scan. Log it as a sensor ghost. Lyra blinked. What? Why? He looked her dead in the eye. Because if you see that ship, you run. It's human. Lyra stared at the commander, unsure if she'd misheard. Human? That's a myth. The Terran diaspora failed. Earth fell into entropy cycles 3 centuries ago. No one survived. Velen didn't blink. We don't speak of them, and we do not engage. The silence stretched. So we let it drift? She asked, voice sharpening. An unknown ship near contested airspace, broadcasting an alien signature, and we ignore it. We survive, he said simply. That's what we do. No glory, no foolishness. But Lyra wasn't wired like the others in the Union. She didn't believe in fear without understanding. She leaned in, analysing the pattern. It's a beacon, she murmured. A deliberate one, modulated across analog bands. That's not a threat transmission. It's bait, Velen growled. They trick you. They twist what they touch. She turned, tone calm but insistent. Commander, this might be the only surviving example of Terran technology. If they're alive out there, if even one of them survived... Velen snapped. They didn't survive. They adapted, and that makes them dangerous. Don't confuse desperation with genius. Close the file. But the seed was already rooted. That night, while the diplomatic vessel drifted at yellow alert, Lyra suited up in breach armor, activated a tether drone, and keyed in an override to the patrol skiff. She wasn't the only one willing to bend protocol for answers. The Reckoning, as the vessel's file finally labelled it, wasn't in pursuit range, just orbiting a dead planetoid. Still, it moved like it was watching. As she crossed into the skiff's cabin, her gut coiled. Velen's words echoed louder now. If you see that ship, run! But she didn't. She burned her engines and rode the silence in. The approach was surreal. The vessel wasn't built, it was forged. Its outer hull looked like it had been salvaged from 10 different civilizations. Panels welded with bare steel met curves of alien alloy. Solar sails stretched between gnarled metal trees. A rotating farm ring spun slowly near its tail, ringed with roots. Actual roots that clung to mesh like ivy. Lights flickered in no logical pattern, as though they followed instinct instead of design. She broadcast standard greetings. No reply, not through words. But the ship pinged her back, using sound waves. It hummed a fragment of Beethoven. She docked on impulse. As her boots hit the pitted, irregular airlock, she steeled herself. Her translator clicked uncertainly, trying to predict what might come next. The door hissed open. Warm light spilled out, golden, flickering, and laughter followed, not sinister, not insane, just human. Lyra stepped inside and froze. The interior of the ship was chaos given structure. Modular segments repurposed as living walls, stenciled with Earth's extinct languages. A hanging hydroponic garden dangled from the ceiling, swaying with the artificial gravity. Hollow screens played recordings of forests and storms. Something smelled like baked bread. Then a voice, rough but casual, echoed from a curved corridor. Huh, you're not a bot, or a bounty hunter, or a slug in a mech suit, wild. Lyra turned, hand instinctively hovering near her sidearm. A tall, broad-shouldered man in patched armor stepped forward, a scruffy beard lining his sharp jaw. His skin was sun-browned, and his eyes had the wary ease of someone who'd outlived every enemy he'd ever had. "Name's Raffi Ortega," he said, extending a hand. "Captain, scavenger, former orbital miner, current improvisational miracle worker." She hesitated. "Lyra, Zalari Union, communications officer." He grinned. "Diplomat, huh? Brave or bored?" She stared at him, heart racing. "You're human," Raffi nodded. "Sure am, not extinct, just hard to pin down. Why are you here?" His smile faded slightly, replaced by something deeper. "Because something's broken out here. Something your people won't touch. But we've made a habit of fixing things no one else will." Footsteps echoed from deeper inside. 3 others appeared behind Raffi. A woman with jet-black braids and grease-stained gloves, carrying an upside-down fusion coil like it was a coffee mug. A tall man in flowing robes, holding a tablet and a flower pot. And a wiry, sharp-eyed rogue who immediately scowled at her and said, "She smells like protocol." Raffi turned back to Lyra. "Welcome aboard the jury-rigged Reckoning. The ship they told you to run from. Funny thing is, running never fixed much, did it?" Lyra said nothing, but she didn't run. The jury-rigged Reckoning smelled like solder, coffee, and damp soil. Not synthetic sterilizers or regulation clean polish. This was a lived-in ship, pulsing with life, human or otherwise. Lyra followed Raffi into a cluttered common bay that defied the sterile precision of her own Union cruiser. Blankets were draped across pipes. A cat, yes, an actual feline, lounged on a coil of insulated tubing. One bulkhead was painted like a mural. Stars, cities, explosions, laughter. "This is a violation of 17 separate fleet codes," she muttered. Raffi tossed her a protein bar. 18, if you count the goat." The what?" "Juno," he called over his shoulder. "You around?" The grease-streaked woman emerged from a hatch in the ceiling, covered in sparks and grinning like someone who'd just hacked God's to-do list. She dropped next to Lyra and offered a gloved hand. juniper coal, engineer, life support, emergency pastry chef. Nice ears. Lyra blinked. You're not military. Stars, no, Juno said. They don't let people like me near weapons-grade reactors. I build them, though. Improvised one out of a defunct dreadnought core once. Took 3 years off Raffi's beard. Raffi smirked. Still grew back. The tall man in robes approached next, holding a potted aloe plant like it was sacred. Dr. Naveen Shah. Exobiologist, botanist, morale officer when nobody's bleeding. Why do you have a plant? He offered a one-shoulder shrug. Thermal regulator, air filter, emotional support. Lyra gave him a sideways look. I don't think that's... He interrupted gently. You're tense. Talk to it. It helps. She didn't. The last figure slid down a ladder silently and leaned against the wall with arms crossed. Pale, wiry and twitchy-eyed, she had a data jack installed behind her left temple and a knife strapped to her boot that hummed with plasma edge tech from 3 centuries out of date. Name's Roach, she said flatly. Pilot, systems hacker, chaos incarnate. I don't trust you yet. That makes 2 of us, Lyra replied. Roach smiled without warmth. Good. We'll get along fine. Raffi clapped his hands. All right. Family drama later. Let's talk about the signal. Lyra pulled out her wristpad. You mean the one you've been broadcasting on analog? Classical music and heartbeat pulses? Guilty, Raffi said. We thought a little Beethoven might set the right tone. What were you hoping for? He shrugged. Somebody who didn't shoot first. Lyra hesitated. That might not be the case much longer. They all looked at her. You're a diplomatic vessel, Shah said slowly. You wouldn't come out here without backup. Unless you came alone, Juno guessed. But if your command logs caught the signal... They did, Lyra admitted. The Union has flagged your ship as a Class 7 existential anomaly. Meaning? Roach asked. Meaning if they find you, they don't ask questions. Raffi scratched his beard. Well, that's rude. They'll send more ships, Lyra said. Not scouts, cruisers, with ion cannons. Raffi looked around at his crew. Guess that means we've got work to do, he said. The briefing took place in what Raffi optimistically called the Strategic Planning Nook, which was really just a table welded from cargo plating surrounded by mismatched chairs. A hologram of the surrounding system flickered above it. Raffi's ship had a limited mapping array, but it showed enough. The Zalari diplomatic cruiser was still in holding pattern several clicks out. For now. The Union doesn't improvise, Lyra explained. They anticipate. Predict. If you're outside the prediction curve, they classify you as volatile. Roach grinned. We're basically the embodiment of volatility. Raffi nodded. So let's keep it that way. He turned to Juno. How's our cloak field? Still fried, she said cheerfully. But I can generate a pulse pattern that mimics debris drift. Won't last more than 2 hours, but it'll buy time. Naveen, status on the plant ring. The algae are thriving, he said proudly. Oxygen levels are at 20 normal. I've also begun seeding the hydroponics with Earth-native fungi. Nutrient-rich, delicious in stew. Roach? Running background scrambles. If they ping our signal, They'll get a fragmented projection of a damaged cargo hauler registered to a mining guild that's been bankrupt for a century. And you? Lyra asked Raffi. He smiled. I think I'm going to talk to your commander. She choked. That's suicidal. Only if I go in as myself. I'll wear a clean suit. You'll patch me through under your ID. You're a comms officer. Say I'm a tech rep inspecting the interference zone. That's a terrible idea. Which is why it'll work. Humans specialize in terrible ideas that shouldn't work, but somehow do. She looked at him long and hard. What's your goal here, Raffi? He looked up at the projected star map. His voice lowered. Same as yours. Keep something valuable from being erased before anyone understands it. The next day, the Union cruiser scanned the region and found nothing. No threat, no strange ship. Just a minor Zalari patrol skiff returning with a mission log scrubbed clean by someone very good at rewriting data signatures. And Lyra, quietly sipping reheated coffee in the comms bay, nodding solemnly at Commander Velen's orders. You were right, she said. Just interference ghosts. Velen seemed satisfied, but her personal datapad buzzed, encrypted and blinking. A message from the Reckoning. Just 3 words. They're not ready. She smiled, because they weren't. But she was. The stars were silent again, but Lyra knew it wouldn't last. 1 week since her return to the Union cruiser. 1 week of pretending everything was normal, while her mind replayed the chaos, charm, and uncanny brilliance of the jury-rigged Reckoning. Every report she filed was true, technically. Distorted sensor echoes. No definitive contact. Power anomalies traced to a passing radiation belt. The truth, the human crew, their impossible cohesion, their bizarre effectiveness, remained of the record. But the Union didn't miss shadows for long. Priority ping, barked the officer beside her. Triangulation complete. Unknown object. Non-compliant IF. That's a warship signature. Commander Velen leaned forward. Where? Lyra didn't breathe. She didn't blink. Outer rim of the Kalis belt. Cloaked but pulsing. Very weak signature. Velen's expression hardened. Send the intercept fleet. Back aboard the Reckoning, chaos had already begun. But this time, it wasn't the fun kind. They found us early, Roach snapped, fingers flying across a cracked display. 3 Union cruisers and a probe net. They're hunting like bloodhounds. Juno cursed. That's impossible. My drift field should have held. It did, Roach said, until someone on the Union side started thinking sideways. All eyes turned to Raffi. He was calm, but his jaw clenched. That's Lyra, he muttered. She didn't rat us out, but she didn't give them false data either. Someone back there dug deeper. Naveen looked up from his hydroponics tablet. Options? Run, Roach offered. Fight, she added, less enthusiastically. Neither works, Juno interjected. We're too slow to flee and too small to win. But they all leaned in. We might be able to distract. Raffi tapped his fingers. Go on. We modify the comms drone, she said. Crack the casing, boost the signal range, and load it with a quantum mirror loop. It'll echo our drive signature and send them chasing an image we control. That'll take hours, Roach pointed out. Juno gave a toothy grin. Not if we do it stupidly. Define stupidly, Naveen said with genuine concern. By pulling energy from the backup oxygen grid. Roach blinked. You're insane. We've got algae, Juno said smugly. Grow faster, breathe deeper. Raffi stood. Do it. We'll give you cover. The plan was simple, as most desperate plans tend to be. Lure the Union ships toward the wrong asteroid, jam their sensors with believable false telemetry, and burn out the drive signature once they were too committed to turn back. It required perfect timing, insane risk tolerance, and a lot of duct tape. As Juno and Roach opened the comms drone, sparks danced through the bay like fireflies on caffeine. Naveen reconfigured the hydroponic pump to regulate pressure through the ship's cooling tubes. Even the cat, the same orange-furred creature Lyra had seen curled up on an old toolbox, now sat alert beside a heat vent, as if sensing something monumental. Almost ready, Roach muttered. I hope. Juno, where's the failure point if we overload the signal amp? She tossed him a wrench without looking. Right under your left foot. He stepped back. Good instincts, she said. Raffi was already at the helm, face lit by warning lights. The Union cruisers were close now, just one asteroid cluster away. They're pinging hard, he said. We don't have much time. Lyra's face flashed on the console. A private relay, somehow rerouted through a relay buoy. Raffi, listen. I bought you time, but they're not blind anymore. Didn't think they would be, he replied. They've deployed sensor drones, thousands. They're scouring everything. One sniff of your heat trace and they'll burn you out of the sky. Raffi smiled. Then we'll just have to not smell like ourselves. She exhaled sharply. This is insane. Welcome to the reckoning. The drone launched from a hidden cradle under the hull. For one brief second, it drifted, small, invisible, insignificant. Then it ignited, a brilliant flash of drive signature. Power bursts. Echoes of engine vibrations that mimicked human tech. The drone banked, feinted, and shot through the asteroid belt like a baitfish darting through a predator's mouth. The Union ships took it. All of them. Cruisers accelerated, weapons primed. They followed the decoy without hesitation. Hook, line, and overconfident bureaucracy, Juno whispered. But it wasn't over. Enemy drones still sniffing, Roach warned. They're triangulating our backup coils. I need 20 more seconds. Naveen scrambled to rewire the thermal disperser. They're sensing our exhaust patterns. Use organic camouflage. What does that even mean? Roach snapped. Naveen dumped an entire vat of hydroponic soil into the ventilation scrubbers. You are a very strange man, she said. Noted. Raffi braced at the helm. Status. Field's almost clean. 9 seconds. Outside, a Union drone passed within 10 meters. It paused, scanned, wavered. Inside the reckoning, every heart stopped. Then the drone veered off, drawn toward the false signal, now bleeding into the asteroid ring. Done! Roach shouted. The ship disappeared, again, beneath a new layer of interference and organic scatter. The Union's finest scanners passed within a kilometer and saw only noise, drift rock, and ghosts. In the control bay, silence reigned. Then Juno let out a breath. Still alive. Naveen patted his soil-covered chest. I've never loved compost so deeply. Roach snorted. Speak for yourself. Raffi leaned back, heart pounding. They'll figure it out eventually. Lyra's voice crackled again, faint but steady. But not today. He smiled. Thanks for the tip. Don't thank me yet. Next time they won't underestimate you. His smile turned to steel. They should have started yesterday. They're pinging hard, he said. We don't have much time. Lyra's face flashed on the console. A private relay, somehow rerouted through a relay buoy. Raffi, listen, I bought you time, but they're not blind anymore. Didn't think they would be, he replied. They've deployed sensor drones, thousands. They're scouring everything. One sniff of your heat trace, and they'll burn you out of the sky. Raffi smiled. Then we'll just have to not smell like ourselves. She exhaled sharply. This is insane. Welcome to the reckoning. The drone launched from a hidden cradle under the hull. For one brief second, it drifted. Small, invisible, insignificant. Then it ignited, a brilliant flash of drive signature. Power bursts. Echoes of engine vibrations that mimicked human tech. The drone banked, feinted, and shot through the asteroid belt like a baitfish darting through a predator's mouth. The Union ships took it. All of them. Cruisers accelerated, weapons primed. They followed the decoy without hesitation. Hook, line, and overconfident bureaucracy, Juno whispered. But it wasn't over. Enemy drones still sniffing, Roach warned. They're triangulating our backup coils. I need 20 more seconds. Naveen scrambled to rewire the thermal disperser. They're sensing our exhaust patterns. Use organic camouflage. What does that even mean? Roach snapped. Naveen dumped an entire vat of hydroponic soil into the ventilation scrubbers. You are a very strange man, she said. Noted. Raffi braced at the helm. Status? Field's almost clean. 9 seconds. Outside, a Union drone passed within 10 meters. It paused, scanned, wavered. Inside the reckoning, every heart stopped. Then the drone veered off, drawn toward the false signal now bleeding into the asteroid ring. Done! Roach shouted. The ship disappeared, again, beneath a new layer of interference and organic scatter. The Union's finest scanners passed within a kilometer and saw only noise, drift rock, and ghosts. In the control bay, silence reigned. Then Juno let out a breath. Still alive. Naveen patted his soil-covered chest. I've never loved compost so deeply. Roach snorted. Speak for yourself. Raffi leaned back, heart pounding. They'll figure it out eventually. Lyra's voice crackled again, faint but steady. But not today. He smiled. Thanks for the tip. Don't thank me yet. Next time they won't underestimate you. His smile turned to steel. They should have started yesterday. The Union called an emergency war council. Lyra wasn't invited, not officially, but she sat in the gallery, her diplomatic badge dangling like a blade of grass in a hurricane. On the central holotable spun a 3D model of the jury-rigged reckoning, patched together from sketchy drone captures, ion signature trails, and heavily redacted Union archives. It's not just a vessel, a brass-voiced admiral growled. It's a weaponized myth, and it's making fools of our systems. Another officer barked, "We warned them! You see that ship! You run!" "But they didn't," Lyra murmured. The room turned toward her. She stood. "They didn't run because they underestimated it. They assumed chaos means weakness. That improvisation is panic. But humans—" She hesitated, then chose her words carefully. "Humans are what happen when structure fails." The silence that followed was thick with unspoken truths. "They have no centralized command," she continued. "No coordinated fleet, no planetary support, and they still humiliated 3 Union warships." A diplomat leaned forward. "You're suggesting we— what? Negotiate?" "I'm suggesting we learn," she said. They laughed. Of course they did, until one screen lit up red. On the edge of the Thalos drift, the reckoning danced among dying stars. The crew was exhausted. Juno's hands were blackened from thermal burns. Roach had rewired half the ship by feel and prayer. Naveen hadn't slept. He was growing yeast cultures to eat. And Raffi sat at the helm, watching the stars rearrange themselves like gods trying new dice. "We've got 3 minutes before that relay satellite finishes pinging Union Command," Roach said, chewing on a wire like it was gum. Juno leaned on the rail. "You think they'll stop sending fleets?" Raffi gave her a look. "Right. Dumb question." "They'll adapt eventually," Naveen murmured. Raffi smiled. "So we adapt faster." Back in Union space, Lyra was already gone. Her diplomatic shuttle had departed without clearance. She'd disabled the transponder, purged the flight logs, and encrypted her trajectory with an old Terran hash algorithm, a trick Raffi had once used on her just to make a point. She was going to them, not to arrest, not to warn, to join, or at least to try. The reckoning wasn't hard to find if you knew how to look for the impossible. She caught a shimmer in the drift, found a pulse that wasn't supposed to exist, and followed instinct where logic refused to tread. Her shuttle barely made it. Juno dragged her out of the airlock, coughing and pale. "Lyra?" Lyra blinked through the haze. "I brought coffee." There was a beat of silence. Then Juno laughed so hard, she nearly dropped her. Later, on the bridge, she faced the whole crew. Raffi studied her like a man looking at a loaded weapon that might be gift-wrapped. "You sure about this?" Lyra nodded. "I tried saving them. They didn't listen. They laughed." Naveen tilted his head. "And now? I want to be on the side that adapts." Roach squinted. "Union implants. Disabled? Surveillance? Crushed." Juno grinned. "Damn, you're a little wild, aren't you?" "I learned from the best," she said, looking at them all. They didn't hug her. Not yet. But they made her coffee. Real stuff. Bitter. Human. And that was enough. A week later, the Union declared the Reckoning a Class Theta strategic anomaly. They called it non-reproducible. They called it human unpredictability in motion. They ordered all vessels to avoid engagement unless reinforced 10-1. They feared the ship because it wasn't supposed to exist. A drifting, half-dead, welded-together collection of nightmares, running on algae, broken laws and heart. But more than that, it was effective. Every mission was a success, every pursuit failed, and every encounter spread a whisper farther across the galaxy. If you see that ship, run, because it belongs to a human.